see the list of supplies that you'll need. This is an example of the picture that we're going to make together today, and some of the supplies that I will be introducing to you in just a moment. Hi everybody, we're going to do some watercolor leaves today and learn a little bit about watercolor while we do so. So what you're going to do is you're going to tape your watercolor paper to a surface. You'll see that I taped it to a board and I have an easel, which works out great if you have those items. However, you can just tape your paper to the table and work from that surface. Just make sure that it's a clean surface before you tape it on. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my leaves that I've collected from outside. So make sure that you go outside, take in some fresh air, and collect some leaves to trace. So I'm going to take those leaves right now and put them against my paper and trace them. I'm going to add a stem because it's really hard to trace that. And then I'm going to add the veins of the leaf. Keep in mind that lines in nature are not perfect, so you can add crooked lines, abnormal lines, really short lines to create the veins of your leaf. So you will see that I've traced all of my leaves and that I've added their stems and their veins to the leaf itself. Now for the fun part, we're going to start painting. So we're going to be using a very simple watercolor palette. It's got mostly primary colors in it and a couple of secondary colors. So you need just really simple watercolors for this particular project. What I'm going to start out with is the background, and I am going to take a cup of water and I'm going to add the water to the paint palette so I can activate that paint. I'm going to use some blue in the background. That way you can really see it pop. So you'll see that I'm not adding too much water, just a little bit to activate the paint. Start from the corner and not along the leaf, so if I mess up, I have plenty of space to work that out. I really like this blue. To make the paint spread faster, you can also take a wet paintbrush and wet your paper and then spread the paint on it. It adds nice blending and texture that way. I really like to let the colors bleed when I'm working with watercolor because it makes it more interesting and adds depth to it. So I'm really liking this blue, but I'm going to add some purple. Add some to the palette there and activate it. Add that along the edge like so. Let it blend into the blue. Be careful around your leaf. Make sure that you are paying attention to where you've drawn your lines. And if you happen to bleed over, that's fine. We can always fix that. To make lighter watercolor, you're going to add more water. To make a darker color like I did along that leaf, you're going to use watercolor that hasn't been diluted as much. I like a lot of texture in my background. In fact, I will show you a trick in a few moments with the iodized table salt. That's just regular salt. I've noticed that sea salt doesn't work as well neither does Himalayan salt. You're gonna want just the cheap iodized table salt for this process. Really fun, cool colors. You don't have to do the same colors that I am applying. You can use warm colors in the background. You can add greens, reds. Maybe you want all of your leaves to be green and your background to be red and orange. I'm gonna do a variety of colors with my leaves, and I really like those cool backgrounds. I'll show you what it looks like when you add some red to your purple and your blue. Add a really nice berry color to it. Mix right alongside those colors and let them bleed together. Sometimes I like to take my paintbrush and get a lot of water and apply it to the surface and just let it drip. You end up getting some really nice colors that way, mixing together and adding to the interest and depth to the piece. All right, you'll notice that when I go along the shape of the leaf, I'm taking the side of my paintbrush and just guiding it along that line, like so. Again, if you mess up, don't worry. We can always blend those colors in, or we can start over. That's fine. Art is all about practice. The more you practice, the better you get. I'll go along this leaf now, using the side of that paintbrush. I don't have too much water in my paintbrush at this time so that it doesn't bleed over the lines that I used to trace that leaf. Very nice. All right, I've completed my background and I'm going to go over it with some water just to moisten the background like so. Show you that salt trick now. All right, taking the iodized salt that I have, I'm going to apply it to some of those wet surface areas and let it work its magic. I hope you can see what happens here. This is going to add a whole new dimension of depth to your piece. The salt crystals react to the paint and cause a starburst where you've applied it. It's pretty cool. I'll wet another corner down here and apply that. And I just don't think the camera can do it justice for what iodized salt can do to your watercolors. It's super fun. You'll see how it's starting to crystallize over here in this corner. It's going to leave a really nice texture. All right, now it's time to start decorating our leaves. I wanted to also mention that if you do make a mistake and your colors run or you've applied too much in an area, you can take a tissue and you can pull that watercolor away by just blotting it. Don't rub or scrub it. You just blot it away and it will pull that watercolor right off the surface and it won't disturb your painting too much. There we go. All right, so one of my leaves I want to make red. So I'm going to dilute some of the red watercolor in my palette. And then I'm going to go along the edge of the leaf first. Getting a little drippy. I'm getting a really nice deep red color because I didn't over dilute my watercolor. Just going along the side, like so. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some watercolor and dilute it a little bit more, again on the red. Add more water to it this time, and then pull it into the center of that leaf, like so. You're going to get a nice light shade this time. Trick with watercolor is to add very little at first, because you can always add more watercolor as you're working. It's definitely harder to pull the paint away from the surface once you've applied it. Watercolor is not as forgiving as like acrylic paint, where you can literally let the paint dry and paint over it. Watercolor is a little more delicate than that. You'll see that I'm keeping my solid lines all on the left side of the leaf, and then I'm pulling the color toward the right. That adds depth and shadow to your leaf. Next, I'm going to do that stem. Start out in that center vein and just move down that line, like so. I'm going to take a little bit of water and pull that color along that whole stem so that there's no white paper showing through. I'm going to keep blending my color now.